Existentialism. Existentialism is a philosophy that speaks directly to the human condition, focusing on our existence before any predetermined essence. Imagine being thrown into a vast ocean. That's how existentialists view human life. We're thrust into existence without a manual or predetermined purpose. At its core, existentialism argues that we are radically free to create our own meaning in life. This freedom, however, comes with a heavy price, total responsibility for our choices. When you understand that no God, government, or authority can tell you what your life should mean, you face what existentialists call anxiety, the dizzying awareness of complete freedom. The concept of authenticity is crucial in existentialism. Living authentically means facing this freedom head-on, making conscious choices and accepting their consequences. Living inauthentically means fleeing from this freedom into social conventions, religions, or other systems that provide ready-made meanings. Most profoundly, existentialism suggests that life's apparent meaninglessness is actually an opportunity. Instead of despairing over the absence of inherent meaning, we can embrace the freedom to create our own purpose. This philosophy transforms life's greatest challenge, its lack of predetermined meaning, into its greatest gift, the freedom to define ourselves. Stevenson. Stoicism isn't just an ancient philosophy. It's a practical toolkit for living in an unpredictable world. At its heart lies a revolutionary idea. We can't control external events, but we have absolute control over our reactions to them. The Stoics teach that most human suffering comes from our judgments about events, not the events themselves. When you lose your job, what causes your suffering, the event itself or your judgment that it's terrible? Stoicism suggests that by changing our perspectives, we can find peace in any situation. Central to Stoic practice is the distinction between what's in our control and what isn't. Our thoughts, judgments, and actions are within our control. Everything else isn't. This simple distinction can transform how we approach life's challenges. Instead of fighting against external circumstances, we focus our energy on our responses. Most powerfully, Stoicism teaches that true happiness comes from virtue, living according to nature and reason. External success, wealth, and even pleasure are preferred indifference, nice to have but not essential for a good life. This liberating perspective frees us from the emotional roller coaster of external circumstances.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Nihilism. Nihilism might seem like pure darkness, but it's actually a torch that illuminates our deepest assumptions about meaning and value. This philosophy suggests that nothing has inherent meaning, value, or purpose, a terrifying yet potentially liberating idea. At its core, nihilism challenges every system of meaning and value. Religious beliefs, moral codes, political ideologies, nihilism suggests these are all human constructions, not fundamental truths. It's like removing all the furniture from a room and seeing it empty for the first time. However, nihilism isn't necessarily a philosophy of despair. Some thinkers see it as a starting point for creating authentic meaning. If nothing has inherent meaning, we're free to create our own values without being bound by traditional constraints. It's like having a blank canvas instead of a pre-painted picture. Most profoundly, nihilism forces us to confront the possibility that we live in a meaningless universe. This confrontation can lead either to despair or to a more authentic engagement with life, where we create meaning while fully acknowledging its constructed nature. Empiricism. Empiricism represents a radical shift in how humans understand knowledge acquisition. It argues that all or most knowledge comes from sensory experience, rather than pure reason or innate ideas. Think of the mind as a blank slate, tabula rasa, that gets filled through experience. This philosophy revolutionized science by emphasizing observation and experiment over pure theoretical reasoning. Empiricists argue that we can't truly know anything until we've experienced it through our senses. It's like the difference between reading about swimming and actually getting in the water. The empiricist approach transformed how we view learning and knowledge. Instead of seeking truth through pure thought or divine revelation, empiricists advocate for careful observation, controlled experiments, and evidence-based conclusions. This laid the groundwork for modern scientific method. Most significantly, empiricism suggests that our knowledge is always limited by our experience. This creates both humility about what we can know and excitement about what we might discover through new experiences and observations. Rationalism. Rationalism stands as philosophy's testament to the power of human reason. It argues that certain fundamental truths can be known through pure reason alone, independent of sensory experience. Imagine solving a mathematical equation. You don't need physical experience to know it's true. At its heart, rationalism suggests that some knowledge is innate or built into our minds. Just as a computer comes with pre-installed software, rationalists believe humans come with certain built-in concepts and logical abilities. These allow us to understand universal truths that transcend personal experience. The rationalist method involves deductive reasoning from self-evident principles. Like a mathematician proving a theorem, rationalists believe we can discover profound truths about reality through careful logical analysis. This approach has been particularly influential in mathematics and theoretical physics. Most powerfully, rationalism suggests that human reason can penetrate the deepest mysteries of existence. Through careful thinking alone, we might understand the fundamental nature of reality, morality, and existence itself. Pragmatism. Pragmatism emerges as philosophy's practical problem solver, judging ideas not by their theoretical elegance but by their real-world consequences. It's like evaluating a tool not by how it looks, but by how well it works. The core pragmatist insight is that truth is what works in practice. Instead of asking whether an idea perfectly corresponds to reality, pragmatists ask, what difference does this idea make in actual experience? If it works effectively in practice, it has pragmatic truth. This philosophy revolutionizes how we think about knowledge and truth. Rather than seeing truth as something fixed and eternal, pragmatists see it as something dynamic and practical. Ideas are instruments for coping with reality, and their truth value lies in their effectiveness. Most profoundly, pragmatism suggests that philosophy should focus less on abstract theoretical debates and more on solving real human problems. It brings philosophy down from the ivory tower and into the streets of practical human experience. Metaphysics. Metaphysics stands as philosophy's ultimate quest to understand the fundamental nature of reality. It asks the most profound questions imaginable. What is the nature of existence? Why is there something rather than nothing? What is time? What is consciousness? These aren't just abstract puzzles. They are attempts to grasp the very fabric of reality. At its core, metaphysics explores what philosophers call first principles, the basic foundations of everything that exists. Think of reality as an enormous building metaphysics tries to understand its foundation and basic structure. It examines concepts like causation, time, space, identity, and possibility, ideas so fundamental we usually take them for granted. The scope of metaphysical inquiry is breathtaking. It investigates whether reality is fundamentally physical or mental, whether time is real or an illusion, whether humans have free will or are determined by prior causes. It questions whether abstract concepts like numbers and moral values really exist, and if so, in what way. These investigations have profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe. Most powerfully, metaphysics challenges our basic assumptions about reality. For instance, some metaphysicians argue that time isn't real, that objects don't truly persist through time, or that consciousness might be fundamental to the universe. These ideas seem bizarre until we examine the sophisticated arguments behind them, revealing how strange reality might actually be. Modern metaphysics continues to evolve, incorporating insights from quantum physics, neuroscience, and other fields. It shows us that the deepest questions about reality remain relevant, and that our common-sense understanding might be profoundly limited. Epistemology investigates how we know what we know, and whether we can truly know anything at all. This branch of philosophy examines the nature of knowledge, sources, and limits of human knowledge, asking questions that shake the foundations of our understanding. The central questions of epistemology are deceptively simple but profoundly challenging. What is knowledge? How do we acquire it? What makes a belief justified? Can we be certain about anything? These questions have led to centuries of debate and continue to challenge our assumptions about knowledge and certainty. Different epistemological theories propose various answers. Some argue that knowledge requires absolute certainty, while others contend that probability is sufficient. Some emphasize the role of reason, others experience, and still others suggest that social and cultural factors shape what we can know. The debate between rationalism and empiricism represents just one battlefield in this larger war over the nature of knowledge. Most fundamentally, epistemology forces us to examine our own beliefs and how we came to hold them. It reveals that many of our supposedly known facts rest on assumptions we've never questioned. This can lead to healthy skepticism, not the kind that paralyzes action, but the kind that promotes critical thinking and intellectual humility. Ethics represents humanity's systematic attempt to answer the question, how should we live? It's not just about rules and regulations, it's about understanding the nature of good and evil, right and wrong, and how we should treat ourselves and others. This philosophical discipline shapes everything from personal decisions to global policies. At its foundation, ethics explores three main areas: meta-ethics, normative ethics, and applied ethics. These layers work together to help us navigate moral complexity in real-world situations. Different ethical frameworks offer various approaches to moral decision-making. Deontological ethics emphasizes duty and universal rules, while consequentialism focuses on outcomes. Virtue ethics shifts attention from actions to character, asking not just what should I do, but who should I be? Each framework offers unique insights into moral life. Contemporary ethics tackles unprecedented challenges: artificial intelligence ethics, environmental ethics, bioethics, and questions about global justice. How should we program autonomous vehicles to make moral decisions? What obligations do we have to future generations regarding climate change? These questions show how ethical theory meets practical reality. Most profoundly, ethics reminds us that moral questions aren't just personal preferences, they're fundamental to human existence and require careful, rational analysis. It suggests that while moral truth might be complex, it's worth pursuing through reasoned argument and careful consideration. PHENOMENOLOGY. Phenomenology represents a radical approach to understanding human experience by examining consciousness itself. Instead of asking about the external world, it investigates how things appear to us in conscious experience. This isn't mere introspection, it's a rigorous method for understanding human consciousness and experience. The phenomenological method involves bracketing our usual assumptions about reality to examine pure experience. Imagine trying to describe how you experience time, space, or other people without assuming anything about what they really are. This reveals the structures of consciousness itself and how we make sense of our world. Central to phenomenology is the concept of intentionality, the idea that consciousness is always consciousness of something. Our experiences aren't just internal mental states, they are always directed toward objects, ideas, or experiences. This insight reveals the deep connection between consciousness and the world it experiences. Human existence and meaning creation are profound implications for understanding human existence. It shows how we're not just passive observers, but actively involved in creating meaning through our conscious engagement with the world. It reveals that our experience of reality is shaped by our projects, concerns, and ways of being in the world. Most significantly, phenomenology challenges the subject split in traditional philosophy, showing how consciousness and world are intimately connected. This has influenced fields from psychiatry to artificial intelligence, offering insights into human experience that purely objective approaches miss. Idealism. Idealism represents one of philosophy's most ambitious attempts to understand reality, arguing that the fundamental nature of the universe is mental or spiritual rather than physical. This isn't just abstract theory, it's a complete reimagining of what reality is and how we relate to it. The core claim of idealism is revolutionary. Matter isn't the basic stuff of reality. Mind or consciousness is. Physical objects exist only as ideas or experiences in minds. This seems counterintuitive until we realize that everything we know about the physical world comes through consciousness and mental experience. Different forms of idealism exist. Subjective idealism argues that reality exists only in individual minds. Absolute idealism suggests that reality is the expression of an absolute mind or spirit. Transcendental idealism proposes that while things in themselves exist independently of mind, our experience of reality is thoroughly shaped by mental structures. Most powerfully, idealism challenges materialistic assumptions about reality. It suggests that consciousness isn't a product of matter, but that matter might be a product of consciousness. This view has found surprising support in quantum physics, where consciousness seems to play a role in determining reality. Materialism. Materialism stands as one of philosophy's most influential worldviews, asserting that physical matter is the fundamental substance of reality, and all phenomena, including consciousness, thought, and feeling, can be explained in terms of physical interactions. This isn't just a philosophical position, it's the foundation of modern science. At its core, materialism argues that everything in the universe, from stars to human emotions, can be reduced to matter and energy interacting according to natural laws. This view challenges traditional religious and spiritual beliefs by suggesting that there's no need for supernatural explanations of reality. Everything that exists is physical or emerges from physical processes. The materialist perspective has profound implications for how we understand consciousness, free will, and human nature. If everything is physical, then consciousness must emerge from brain activity. Free will might be an illusion created by complex neural processes, and human behavior can be explained through biological and environmental factors. Most powerfully, materialism suggests that understanding the physical world is the key to understanding everything. This has driven tremendous scientific progress, but also raises challenging questions about meaning, purpose, and value in a purely physical universe. Modern materialism grapples with these questions while maintaining its commitment to physical explanation. The impact of materialism extends far beyond philosophy into fields like neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and even economics. It suggests that by understanding physical systems, we can understand and potentially influence everything from human behavior to cosmic evolution. Determinism. Determinism presents a challenging philosophical view. Everything that happens is the inevitable and necessary consequence of previous events combined with the laws of nature. This includes our thoughts, decisions, and actions. It's like viewing the universe as an enormously complex chain of dominoes, where each event necessarily leads to the next. The core argument for determinism is compelling. If everything follows natural laws and these laws are fixed, then given the exact same starting conditions, events could only unfold in one way. This raises profound questions about free will, moral responsibility, and the nature of human choice. If our decisions are determined by prior causes, can we truly be responsible for them? Modern determinism has evolved with quantum mechanics, which introduces apparent randomness into physical events. However, even quantum indeterminacy doesn't necessarily give us free will. It might just mean our actions are determined by a combination of prior causes and random quantum events, rather than being freely chosen. Most profoundly, determinism challenges our basic intuitions about choice and responsibility. It suggests that our sense of making free decisions might be an illusion, albeit a practically useful one. This has implications for everything from criminal justice to personal development. Contemporary discussions of determinism often focus on its compatibility with moral responsibility. Some argue that we can be responsible for our actions even in a determined universe, while others suggest we need to radically revise our concepts of praise and blame. Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism emerges as one of ethics' most influential and practical philosophical frameworks, proposing that the most ethical choice is always the one that produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. This seemingly simple principle has revolutionary implications for how we approach moral decisions. At its heart, utilitarianism is about consequences rather than rules or intentions. It judges actions not by their adherence to moral laws or the character of the person performing them, but by their outcomes. This focus on results rather than rules makes utilitarianism both powerful and controversial. The theory raises complex questions about how to measure and compare different types of good and harm. How do we weigh present versus future happiness, individual versus collective well-being? These challenges have led to sophisticated developments in utilitarian thought, including discussions of rule utilitarianism versus act utilitarianism. Most significantly, utilitarianism challenges traditional moral intuitions. It suggests that sometimes causing harm to one person might be justified if it prevents greater harm to many others. This has practical implications for everything from public policy to personal ethical decisions. Modern utilitarianism continues to evolve, addressing questions about animal welfare, future generations, and artificial intelligence. It provides a framework for addressing global challenges like climate change and poverty, while raising important questions about justice and individual rights.